Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Codex Creator Series where I take a content creator, interview him, let him show off everything he does and how he got into this crazy world. As always, I am your host, Jamie J. Dub. With me, I am happy to say the first person that actually collects omnibuses, Ray. Thank you so much for being on today, buddy.
Oh, thanks, J. Dub. Appreciate it, man. I love, or no, how do I say it? I go, I don't collect single issues. I collect trade paperbacks and omnibuses, and I love them, and I love talking about them. That's
good, because we're gonna be talking about it a little bit here. Well, let's kick it off with this then. What is your comic book origin story, and what's the Genesis book that drove you to get into all this?
I was a kid, and I'm pretty old. I was a kid in the 70s, and we grew up. My family was really poor, so we didn't have a lot of money. But we had a dime store in the town I lived in, and so I'd go mow lawns and get money for mowing lawns or shoveling snow, and then I'd go up to the dime store and I'd buy comic books. I bought a Micronauts #1, okay, and I didn't like it that much. But there was a kid I went to school with whose name was Jeff Burns, and he was also a comic collector. He collected the Hulk and just all this cool stuff, but I had this Micronauts #1, and he said, I'll trade you for that. And I was like, I didn't have any other books. I said, yeah, I'll trade you. And he said, well, come on by and look at my books. And I saw a Legion of Superheroes. It was a Legion of Superheroes number 203. It was Superboy and Legion of Superheroes 203, and it had Validus and Mon-El was on the cover, and I wish I had the single. I'd show it to you, but I don't have it anymore. But I traded him for that book, and I got so into that Legion book. And it was either Mike Grell or Dave Cockrum art, and it was Jerry Conway wrote it, and it was such a great book. I bet I read it 1,000 times. I loved it so much. And that's what got me in it. So every month I'd run up to the store and buy a Legion comic. And then eventually I had a friend that was collecting the Justice League, and I became friends with him. And so, I'd get it. But this is when I was a kid, and I was a football player and basketball player and baseball player. And back then you couldn't admit to liking comic books because people pick on you, which was, it was just weird. That's how it was when I was growing up. But I had this great collection. I also got my hands on a bunch of Silver Age Marvel stuff, and I would keep it. And then my house caught fire, and it burnt up my entire collection. So my family moves. We moved to this apartment above this bank, and I start collecting again. Right, I'm building up my collection. And then this is 6 months after the first fire, we had another fire that wiped out the bank and the apartment building above it. So it destroyed my collection again. And then my mom's like, maybe you should stop with the comic collection. So I stopped collecting comics. And then I eventually, went to high school and went to college. And then I got my first full-time job in radio. I was working. And I was going through this breakup with this girl, and I was just she was living with me, and I know this is a long story, but she was living with me and she was moving out. And I'm like, I don't want to go home and see her. And I was living in Texas because I grew up in Illinois, and by this point I'm living and working in Texas. And I didn't want to go home to this girl. So I said, I'm going to go to a comic shop. I haven't been to a comic shop. I'd never been to a comic shop, but I used to go to the dime store and get books. So I went to a comic shop, and now I had a little money because I was in radio, and I just bought some comics, and I fell in love with them again. And so I started collecting singles and stuff. And then in 2005, I had a contract skirmish, and so there was a point I was unemployed, and we had no compete contracts in radio. So if you didn't re-sign your contract, you weren't allowed to go work anywhere else. You had to sit for so many months and you weren't allowed to work. So I had to sell my comic collection just to pay the rent and stuff, to pay the mortgage. I was selling my comics, and eventually I got rid of them all. Well, last year, and then so I was without comics again from 2005 till last year. I had a surgery, and I was going to be homebound for like 6 weeks after the surgery. And uh, my wife said, "Well, you should, get something that'll make you happy that while you're sitting there. What can you do?" And I said, I love comic books. And I said, I'm going to go. And I went to Amazon and I said, I want to buy some comic, but I didn't want to buy singles. I bought a paperback, and I bought that. And next thing you know, I loved it. And I bought another one, and I bought another one, and I bought, and so that's how it started. That was August of 24. I started just getting paperbacks. And I was like, oh my God, I never want to get a single again. And then by November, I started with omnibuses. So that's sort of how that's my history with comics right there. And now I'm obsessed. I love them.
Yeah.
I love my omnibuses. I love my paperbacks. I just love everything. So.
Yeah, and you could tell from the back, like your backdrop right there. It's like,
oh,
they look so aesthetically pleasing on the shelf. It's insane.
J-Dub, this is just you got to see the room. This is just this portion.
Okay? I know. I've seen your shorts. And I'm like,
if you go, there's all this stuff, okay, but over here, and I'm not bragging. I don't want anybody to think I'm bragging, but if you go over to this side, on the other side of this shelf, there's shelves over there too. There's shelves on that side, and yeah, I love it. I'm very blessed. I got a nice collection. So
yes, it's always a good talking piece too, especially when you have people over, or, just having fun, being like, yeah, you want to see, and then they come in and they're just in awe. Like,
yeah, like I have.
You just started last year.
Yeah, I started. I tell people, I go, yeah, I started in August last year. And they go, what? And they go, I say, yeah, here, I'll show you, and I can show them all my stuff, and it's just, people are amazed by it. But I just love it. I've just become obsessed with it. It's a sickness. It really is.
Yeah, but like we were kind of talking about before we got on there. Yeah, it's the best non-drug and alcohol addiction.
It's not alcohol. It's not heroin. It's not cocaine or anything like that. It's not food. Yeah. It's comic books, and I love it. But my wife has said, she goes, since you got into comics, you don't gamble anymore. She goes, you no longer gamble. You don't do anything. I don't have any more vices. All I do is just comics. So,
right. And like I said, it's a good thing to have.
Yeah.
Now, to ask, what was that one thing that drew you to the collected editions, omnibuses, and trade paperbacks over single issues? Because you said you started off with it.
I'll be honest. What it was initially is when I got the singles, I had to constantly get up and get a new issue when I finished it. But because I had surgery, and I was literally in a recliner, and I couldn't get up, and I couldn't walk very well. I was in a wheelchair at one point. I was 600 pounds in a wheelchair years ago. And then I started working out in like 2019. I've lost a considerable amount of weight. But I had this surgery, and I couldn't walk. So here's why I like collected editions, because by the way, here's the first one I got. I could read them, and I didn't have to get up. I didn't have to get up and get a new book.
Good place to start.
I got the whole, you know what I mean? I got all issues together in one trade. That's why I loved collected editions. That's why I loved paperbacks. And so it wasn't getting up after every single thing to get another comic. They were just right there. And then of course that I ended up buying the whole Tom King run, and and then I went back and got the 52 stuff. I got the whole Snyder run, and then
that was a great run.
Yeah, I know, right? And then eventually I started getting omnibuses, which was even bigger.
Yeah. And like I said, they look great on the shelf.
people say stuff like, "Oh, it takes me 2 weeks to read an omnibus," and I go, "All right, I'm going to top that.
Yeah,
I'm going to see if I can get it done in 4 days." It's just,
do I have anything to do?
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, so what publisher do you lean more towards with the collected edition? 'Cause I see a lot of Marvel. Obviously, you just shows some
Yeah,
DC.
I love both, but my favorite is DC. I love because Legion of Superheroes my first. That was my first love was Legion of Superheroes. So I'm a DC guy, and I do love. I
We need
love
more of those. Thank you.
Jeff Johns is fantastic. I
Oh,
love
my favorite writer.
everything he's written is so great. But there's a lot of great writers out there. I now respect. I respect comic book writers like I've met a lot of famous people because, like I said, I was a broadcaster for, I still am, but I've been doing it since the 80s. And I met a lot of famous people, but I'm not one to get, and I have friends that are famous too, but I'm not one to get autographs.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you, an autograph that I would get would be like Jonathan Hickman.
Okay.
Or Joshua Williamson. I love Joshua Williamson. Or Jeff Johns is my goat. I would, in a heartbeat, but I'm not interested. I'm just not interested in fame or anything like that with most people. But when it comes to comic book writers, I respect them so much. That would be the one, that would be, people thought I was crazy because I sat in an on-air studio with Paul Stanley and never got an autograph. I was like, I'm good.
I would be fangirling out too.
Yeah, I mean, and David Lee Roth, they were cool. And Sting, I think Sting was. I take it back. I got an autograph from Sting, but so I've sat in studios with people and met them, and I just got to know them and I liked them.
Mm-hmm.
But a comic writer to me would be I would fangirl over a comic writer.
Yeah.
And the only other person I've ever fangirled over was Vince Russo, who was a wrestling writer.
Yes.
Back when I was into
bros.
Yeah, like he wrote all the WWE or the WWF Attitude Era stuff.
Yeah, he went to WCW, over there.
Yeah, and he went to WCW. He started that, and I think that was great. So, but I kind of fangirl over him, and I got to know Eddie Ferrara because one of the stations when I was going to go get a job in Miami, we talked to Eddie Ferrara about coming on board as a consultant because he was a writing consultant and a writing teacher, and he was just we wanted to hire him to teach my staff how to write, comedy and stuff. So I got to know Eddie, and I liked him a lot. But I never got the chance to spend any time with Vince, but I would have gotten his autograph. So I'm not big on autographs and stuff, but Joshua Williamson or Jeff Johns, I'd get that autograph in a heartbeat, man.
Oh, in a second.
I just think and Brian Michael Bendis too. I love Bendis. And Donnie Cates, man. Donnie Cates is fantastic. I'm so happy he's getting ready to start again. So
am I. I just can't go up to his booth ever again. Like I've had bad experiences.
What happened?
So this was pre-pandemic. You're from Illinois, so you know C2E2
in Chicago.
Yeah. So I've been going every year since I can remember. And I went to go meet him. The first one, it wasn't the first one he was doing. It was like you couldn't touch anybody, you couldn't like fist bump because everyone was worried about COVID. It's the week before the world shut down. So I go up to his table. I've got a couple books, or I had Buzzkill for him, which I rave about. And I go up to his table, and I'm the next person in line. I've waited, right? And waited and waited. And he just looks at his handler, says something, and then the handler goes, "Okay, we're done." And I went, "Huh? I'm next in line."
You're thinking, was it me? Why the hell did he decide to stop now?
Yeah. I'm like, did I just give off an aura or something? Like, so, it's been some time. I just moved back to Illinois. I went to C2E2 this past year, and I went for a day, and I had a bunch of books. Like Kyle Higgins, I was getting autographed from, which he's cool. Yeah. That Tom King, but a bunch of people. So I go up to Donnie Cates, and he's got no one there. Like literally no one, right? Literally someone walks, like just brushes by me, goes into his booth, and then he puts up a sign, "No autographs, no nothing." And dude, like,
So it's
You know what?
happened
I'm done.
twice.
Yeah, no one's there. He puts up a sign, interview in progress. I
Oh,
was like, where?
oh,
So yes, that one, I'm just like, he a fantastic writer. Fan, that
yeah,
man could write anybody.
I
It'd be amazing. But
I
as
think
far
he's
as trying to meet him, I'm good now.
yeah, I've never met any of them.
Mhm.
But he would be someone that I would ask for an autograph, which is, like I said, I've met famous people, and I'm just not one to usually ask for autographs. But I think when it comes to comic book writers, that's what I'd want to do is get an autograph. So, which I know is weird, but it's just what you happen to be into.
Yeah, when
And
it comes
now
to
I'm
the
really into
passion of
comics.
it,
So, yeah.
it's out of this world. But real quick, if like I see so many different Marvel titles, and obviously you have another
Yeah.
room full of them. If there's one title or run that you would be like, okay, if everything was gone, this is the one I'm keeping. Which one would it be?
Um, well, it'd be the Legion of stuff. It'd be the Legion of
Legion.
Super, which they don't have a lot of Legion omnibuses.
They do not.
Hopefully, near mint condition just did their poll, and Paul Levitt's Legion finished number 3. So hopefully Omar sends that off, or I know he's going to send it off, but hopefully DC sees it and says, you know what, it's time to make a Legion omnibus. I pray that that's going to happen. But
Yeah.
I have Legion trade paperbacks that I'd probably keep. But I'll tell you another thing that I really like, and it's great timing because I just got oversized hardcovers of it. This is a run that I loved, which was Iron Man by Matt Fraction and Salvador Roca.
Oh God, yeah.
And it was that one where Norman Osborn's trying to come for him, and he's deciding to erase his mind. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It is. And I've got all the trade paperbacks of it.
Fraction's another one that just doesn't miss.
I just got the oversized hard copies of it. This is Invincible Iron Man number 1 and number 2. Literally, I just got them in the mail, so I'm very happy. But I've read it 1,000 times on paperback, but now this is as close to an omnibus as it's gotten. But this was my number 1 pick on the poll for near mint for Marvel books was the Iron Man by LaRocca and Fraction. I think Matt, and by the way, I can't wait for Matt Fraction to get on Batman. I think he's gonna be fantastic.
Oh, him and what do you call it?
Jose Jimenez. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Jimenez. Yeah. Jimenez has been on Batman forever, so it's
he's great. He's great.
And the character he wants to draw is Superman so bad.
Oh yeah, but he draws that when he gets a chance, he draws the hell out of him, man.
Oh yeah, like his Joker is like impeccable.
Yeah.
It's so good. So let's jump into the content creating part of you.
Sure.
What made you sit down and say, "Hey, I want to be a content creator for this now"?
Well, I've always created, because I've been in broadcasting for years, but I've created I did I don't even know if you'd call it a morning zoo type show, but it was like I mean, I guess Howard Stern is because people know Howard, but I was more a Steve Dahl, Jonathan Brandmeier guy because I grew up in Illinois.
Right.
But it was that type of show that I've done, and I did it for a long, long time. And it was rock radio, comedy, a lot of like we were doing Jackass stuff before Jackass was even on the air. And I had a guy named Jim the photographer who worked with me who was always going out and doing stuff. So I did that type of show, and I was comedy writing, and I would comedy write. I would freelance comedy write for different things. Like I had some friends who were stand-up comedians and writers, and I would basically sell bits and jokes to them. Like I had a friend who was writing for an award show. I've got non-disclosure stuff, but he was writing for different award shows. And so I would sit in my house and I would write, I'd write up little bits and send to him, and they would buy them. So, I've always created comedy content, but when I got into comics, I said, you know what? I'd love to create comic content, but I had never done it before. So there was sort of at first there was sort of a reluctance to try it. So I watched TikTok stuff from like September through January, and then finally the beginning of year in 25, I started making some comic content. And here's what I did. I just started thinking, what would I have wanted to see? When I first got into it, that's what I did. And then, but I also felt like we talked about Omar. I love near mint condition videos. I don't know if have you seen OmniDog?
Yes.
I love OmniDog. I think OmniDog is the GOAT. I just think he's hysterical because he doesn't try too hard.
No.
It's just
genuine.
Yeah, and he's just genuine. I just really like him. I like a Crisis, and I like Dom of X. And then on TikTok, I love Omnibus God. I think Omnibus God is so authentic, and he's a Midwesterner like us. I like him. I like him a lot. I watch all his content, and I like what the hell? Why am I forgetting? Dark Sidious or whatever. I can't. Why am I forgetting the name?
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
He does great content. He's always like, these are the top five
books that I would recommend for you if you were getting into Batman.
Stuff. Yeah, so I was like, if I could do something, comparable to what these guys do, it would be great. It would really, really be, So I just started thinking, what would I want to see? And that's what I did. And then the other thing is, I noticed, if I'm just some chubby guy talking, nobody wants to watch. But if I'm a chubby guy talking, I'm saying, look at this great Salvador La Roca art. And I notice more people will watch the video for longer.
Yeah.
And so I try to make content where I have excuses to show the books and show the inside of the books. And that's the other thing I that I try to do. But that's and I've tried big production in my videos, and I get less views for anything that's really overly produced than the stuff that I do with just my little DJI or whatever, and just sitting in front of talking about a comic that I read or comic I loved. So
yeah, and I've seen some of these, even these was it B.Y. Martley or something? I forget. I'm trying to remember exactly off the top of my head. He's a TikToker. His content creation is off the charts when it comes to actually filming and talking about his books and everything else. Like, this man, I know he sits there and takes time editing.
Yep.
Like, you just see it. But like, to me, his views should be skyrocketed. He should be having more of a following. And it's
you never know. You don't. That's the thing that's why, like I said, I come from a traditional media, which is radio. And I come from that traditional landscape to this new TikTok and YouTube world. And it's, just trying to figure out how that works is strange. Like because I do a show every day, the Morning Disaster Show, which is humor. And it's a radio morning show, and it's just funny, and talking to friends of mine, and we just get on a BS for an hour and a half, and I do that every day. And the followers that I have for that on YouTube are so much more than the followers I have with my ChubbyRayComics channel, because that's a newer YouTube channel. It just got started in. I used to do it on my old channel, and then I started the new channel only like a couple months ago. So I'm trying to gain followers and views on there. But the TikTok's going up. I've got some nice TikTok views. So, and I noticed that people love a lot of the stuff that I love. They love talking about writers. I used to do and I still do it occasionally. Like, I'll do top 10 writers of the month, and I'll just give out who I think is doing a great job, and I'll show, like, I would say, for example, I'm just saying it because the book's in front of me. All right, Jeff Johns is great. Here's his latest Geiger.
Oh, Ghost Machine is amazing.
The inside of the book, and and then that's basically, and I pick so many writers, and I'd hold the book, show the inside, and talk about it. But I noticed that stuff gets a lot of views. Yeah, because I think
because you have something physical there to actually show and represent, instead of just saying, "Hey, this is why I like it," and you're just standing there in front of a camera going, Yeah, so you might like it too. But now you actually
If
have
you're
that
liking
physical
stuff,
means.
if you're watching stuff and you're thinking, I want to buy something this guy's talking about, then you want to see it.
Yeah.
And that's what when I make content where I said I make content that I'd be interested in, that's what I was interested in. Especially when I started buying omnibuses, I wanted to know what was inside the omnibus I was buying,
Mm-hmm.
and I loved it when people showed what was inside the books. And so that's why I always try to show inside the books. I don't think anybody wants to look at my face. I think they'd rather see the face of the books or
Yeah,
see the inside.
I have the same feling. Trust me. Every
Right.
time I go
Yeah.
live, every time
I
we
mean,
do one of these,
there's nobody saying, "Oh, J-Dub and Chubby Ray are so good looking." Nobody's saying that. They're just
no.
going. I want to see the comics. I want to see what the hell they're talking.
Who's that guy with the bandana stick
Here's
that
what
he
I got.
always does?
I got Doctor Strange by Jason Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
This is my mail grab today. I told you I showed you my Iron Man oversized, but I got these on eBay because I can't find them anywhere else.
Yeah.
And then I got from Organic Price Books, I got Doomsday
That's cool.
Clock.
Yeah, dude, that is actually one of the books that I always tell people you don't want to. When the singles were coming out, it was bi-monthly, then it became quarterly.
Yeah, because they were taking. I think Gary Frank was taking forever on the art, but man,
yeah, they just couldn't keep up.
It's
especially with scheduling. Book. It is, but if you read it in one sitting, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, I love it.
My favorite line is from that book, and that's when I think it's at the end of the first issue. Superman's laying in bed with Lois, and he wakes up sweating, and she goes, "What's wrong, Clark?" And he's like, "I had a nightmare." He's like, "I've never had a nightmare."
Oh yeah,
before.
That's great.
And that line stuck with me forever.
Yeah, I love that book, and I love the Superman Dr. Manhattan at the end. I just think it's fantastic.
Yeah. Those two worlds came together so seamlessly through that book.
Jeff Johns is a genius. I love his stuff. I'll tell you, the best book, I'm getting ready to do the best paperbacks that I've read in the last whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I could tell you, number one is Red Coat by Jeff Johns. I think for those of you guys that haven't read Red Coat,
we talk about Ghost Machine at least every episode that we do. It doesn't even matter how it falls into.
Oh my God. Red Coat is phenomenal. The trade paperback volume 1 of Red Coat is phenomenal. You guys,
my personal favorite, well, 2, because I can't pick a number 1 for it. I usually just tell people Ghost Machine, go get it.
Yeah, anything Ghost Machine. Geiger's great.
Rook has been my favorite.
Is great.
Hyde Street is there with Rook.
Oh, I haven't seen Hyde Street yet because it hasn't come out in paperback. So
yeah, once it does, you will not be disappointed.
Yeah, I've actually pre-ordered that one because I cannot wait to see it. I just love it. I just love the Ghost Machine stuff, and I love Red Coat because I love the art. I think Brian Hitch is just killing it, and I love the story because it's a fun story. And I did a video about this, but do you remember the first time you saw Back to the Future?
Mm-hmm.
How just you'd never seen anything like it before. Because I was a kid. I saw it when it first came out.
Yeah.
And I'd never seen anything like it. And afterwards I felt so, and same thing when I saw Star Wars and when I saw Indiana Jones for the first time. I just remember that feeling. I got the same feeling when I read Red Coat as I did after seeing movies like Back to the Future and Indiana Jones and stuff. I'd never seen anything like that before. The mix between history and fantasy. I think it's just so great by Jeff Johns. And I'm telling you, he wrote that to sell the movie rights. That's what the hell he did. And you can, it's going to be one day, it's going to be a fantastic movie or some type of limited series, because the whole way he sets up with Einstein as his Robin. Oh my God, that was mind blowing. It's just it's so good.
And then that jump to where it's like he's with Einstein in the bed and he's like, I know I was never the best friend, but he's like, you always were.
Isn't that amazing? I love that. And I think what a freaking movie that's going to be, man. It's going to be phenomenal. So I love Red Coat. I think it was the best thing that I've read in the last year. It's fantastic. So
yeah, like I said, anything Ghost Machine is just
and anything by Jeff. I just love Jeff Johns too. I think he's great.
Yeah. So with your content, when you're going at creating it, like we were talking about, like your top 10 writers, or when you do any of the omnibus reviews, do you script anything, or is it just like a mediocre outline, or is it just off the cuff?
Here, I'll show you. I usually do an outline. I'll show you on my phone. I'll bring up my notes on my phone and okay. Top writers. So here's what I don't know if you can see it, but there's the notes that I'll have. There's my notes. It's top writers, and I don't know if you can see them, but that's what I'll use when I do my stuff. So I'll just put this down so I can see it, and then the rest I just, I have my notes, and then I just ad lib around it. That's sort of the way I do it. And I do the same things with here's omnibuses I've been talking about. You can see.
So you kind of have like an outline before you get into it, just and then go off the cuff basically from there and just do your own thing, make it your way.
And the other thing is I record everything for the comic stuff. So if I screw up, just boom, hit a button, start over again.
Right. Or edit it out at some point.
Yeah, or edit. Yeah. Yeah. But that's I try to ad lib as much as possible, but I keep a note just to make sure that I touch on the things I want to touch on.
Yeah, I had the problem of I always tried to wing it for so many years. And at one point I was like, I need a little bit of structure, because if I don't have it, I'm like, I'm just going to go off tangent and not even be on the same topic we were when we started.
Yeah, the hardest part for me was I had to distinguish that there was a difference between my radio side and how I do content on radio and how I do content with my comics, because I thought, well, just like radio, I'll just do it all, because we've done comedy stuff, but I won't use a script for comedy stuff, which is just off the top of my head.
Right.
We use scripts for recorded stuff. But you need a script, or at the very least an outline when you're doing comic content stuff, so that you don't get screwed up. Or God forbid I come up with the top 10 writers or top 5 writers, and I want to make sure I hit boom, 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 boom. And if I'm ad-libbing and I forget one, then I got to redo the whole thing over again.
Yeah. It trust me, I've done that so many times where I'll be sitting there, I'll talk about everything, and I'm like,
yeah. The hardest thing, if this is the hardest thing for you, the hardest thing is those stupid little mistakes. Like I'll be saying, all right, here's another one from Marvel. And then I pick up Infinite Crisis. And then the video's done and I send it out, and then it goes live on TikTok, and I watch it. I watch it just to make sure it's on there, and I watch it and I see myself make the mistake, and I'm just like, oh.
Yeah, right. You're just like, you just melt.
I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. And then it's already, and you put it up and it's already got 400 views before you watch it. And then you realize you made the mistake, and it's like, well, I'm not going to take it down now, because I'll lose all those views. And that's the worst. That's the worst feeling in the world.
Yeah. And, at the end of the day, though, in your heart that you want to make it right, because if you don't, it's just going to sit with you and eat at you.
I just hate those little mistakes. Like, that's the stuff that makes me crazy. So I try to have my notes in front of me just to see stuff, to make sure that I have it.
Right. Well, we already talked about the multiple platforms that you are on, and we'll show that too at the end, so that way everyone can find you. Sure. Which platform to you has been the most rewarding so far?
Oh, TikTok. It's gotta be TikTok.
Yeah, it seems like that comic talk community, the comic book TikTok community, has been just amazing.
It's a great community. It really is. I mean, everybody talks about Instagram, but my Instagram, I got nothing. Followers. Yeah, there's nobody that wants, and the videos have to be really short, and you don't have a lot of time. Like,
no, it's not enough time to, even if you did a quick edit down to where you're like, okay, I can talk about these points, you still find yourself kind of going over.
Yeah.
And you're just like, you know what, maybe it's not for this platform, but it works for TikTok. If you have something shorter, it's like, okay, I can put it here too. Now, finally.
YouTube's great because we could do longer form stuff. Like I'll record a video, and sometimes it goes like 15 minutes. I'll be like, oh crap, that's not going on TikTok. but that's something I put on YouTube and will actually get some views. And I'm getting ready. I want to do some live shows.
Mhm.
And I want to start on TikTok and YouTube with live shows soon. So,
Oh,
you know,
trust me, the live community is even just as great.
yeah, I just talked about the near min condition poll.
Mhm.
I watched the Marvel poll and DC poll conclusions. I mean, I thought those were fantastic shows, and I would love to be able to do something similar to that kind of content with, I got to get some friends like, Omar's got like Crisis, who's like a walking encyclopedia, and he's got Dom Mavex off the top of his head, and he's got that guy Lars.
Mhm.
Those guys, they can just pull out numbers and issue numbers, and that was during the so-and-so run, and so-and-so was the artist. I mean, those guys, they're like math geniuses when it comes, but it's all comic content. I mean, those guys are fantastic. So as soon as I find people like that, I'd love to. I love talking comics, and I'm really excited about starting a live show. I'd like to start one before the spring, or before the fall. So
Best way to do it is to do it.
yeah,
It's intimidating at first, but then once you start, getting in there and talking to
see,
people.
here's my problem. Because I do a show daily, a comedy show, I'm gonna expect that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I know that's not what I'm gonna get. And I don't think my ego will not allow me to do a show for 5 people. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I have to lower my expectations to start low and build it up. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think that's part of it.
To me, even if there's one person,
Yeah.
you're entertaining that one person, doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
it's when the numbers start going up, you start going, oh God, oh, did I get this person's comment? And oh, did I make sure there's so many other avenues other than, looking at the numbers, but at the same time, your eyes are always there.
My wife makes a good point, because I've talked about it with her, and I said, well, I do my regular show every day and this, that, but my wife says, your regular show every day, you have subscribers and people that pay to see you, and you have advertisers, and you've got to justify getting money from those advertisers. She goes, your comic stuff's free.
Yeah.
So as long as it makes you happy, I don't know why you're concerned. And I think I go, she's absolutely correct. And I think you were just basically saying that as long as you're having fun doing it, just do it. And so I think eventually that's where I'm going to settle. But, it's broadcasting to me is special because it's what I do for a living.
Right.
And I want to make sure that when I do a comic show, that I'm doing a show that people like, because I don't know. I think I'm too sensitive to be, I think I get embarrassed too easy, But I don't
do
know.
that to
We'll see.
myself too.
I'm really looking forward to it. I have a nice studio set up, so
Yeah.
But I usually hide the stuff. I hide my broadcast stuff when I'm doing my comic stuff. So it'd be nice to actually, have it visible and everything. So
Right. Have it intertwined.
yeah.
Well, with all the content that you are putting out, which, ladies and gentlemen, go check it out. It's phenomenal. I've watched
Thanks,
so much
dude.
of it so far. It opens your eyes. Like, I never thought. I've always been a single issue collector. I never thought I'd get into like the trade or collect editions. I just started with the DC Finest line.
Oh yeah.
And it's been amazing. But with making all that content, have you yet hit that point of burnout at any point? No.
Oh no. I love it. I'm serious.
Mhm.
It is such a pleasant addiction. I mean, it really is. It's unlike, like there's times when I do my regular radio show that I'm just like, oh my God, it's the weekend. I need a few days off,
Right.
because I do a show Tuesday through Saturday every week, Tuesday through Saturday. And by Thursday, I'm like, oh my God, I need the weekend. When it comes to comic content, I could broadcast every day. I bet I could do it every day and I would never get sick of it. The other thing is, there's so much. If I just turn around and go, today I'm going to talk about Secret Warriors. You know what I mean? I could just reach behind me and grab a book and talk about it for, for an hour. We were talking earlier about Donny Cates. Here's one of the reasons I love Donny Cates so much. I have never been a Venom fan. I was a Spider-Man fan, and Venom was always a villain. I was getting single issues when Todd McFarlane was drawing Venom versus Spider-Man early on, and when it was Larson and Bagley and stuff. But I had never read a Venom comic. And then I decided to get, they were on sale or something, but I decided to get Rex, the trade paperback of Venom called Rex, which was the start of the Donny Cates era.
Yep.
And there's a line in that paperback where, excuse me, I'm getting choked up. No, I was getting a sore throat. But where Eddie Brock's is going through, I can't remember the whole scenario, but he's going through a really rough time and he's gonna die. And he's telling the symbiote, he's like, just go be with whatever. And the symbiote says, but Eddie, I love you. You know what I mean? And it made me rethink the whole Eddie Brock symbiote relationship. And I mean, it was in that book that made me rethink it. I went, oh my God. And it's this mind-blowing moment. I only get that from comics.
Where you realize he's not just a host, he's part of them.
You realize he's a part of him. And it was so touching. It was such a moment. I'm like, holy crap, I can't believe a comic book is getting me emotional. But it's one of the few things in life that can make me emotional. Really great television, really great movie, really great film, or a real good comic book are the only things that make me emotional. And I think that's one of the reasons I love it so much, is because of the emotion I feel when reading it,
Yeah. And you could find that in almost every book you pick up. Like there's always that little switch that hits and you're just like, I didn't think about it that way before, or, well, that touched me at an emotional level because I did X, Y, and Z. So
I'll tell you who else I really love, and a character I never cared about was Benjamin Percy's run on Ghost Rider.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. His Ghost Rider stuff is so phenomenal. It's so great. What happens, if you guys have ever read Benjamin Percy's Ghost Rider, it's so good. They've never made an omnibus of it, and I wish they would, but it is so good that I recommend it. And it got me emotional, and I just really, really enjoyed it. But those are two characters that, that I never gave a damn about Venom. I never gave a damn about Ghost Rider until these authors, and I read their works, and it made me rethink it. And I went, oh my God. Like, I really think of Johnny Blaze as a victim. He is in this character, but he's come to, I don't know. It's so good. And I love Talia War Rider, and the other characters in that book were so phenomenal.
Yeah. Percy took it to another level with that book.
I love Dylan Brock. I think he's great. When they introduce him in that Cates run, I think it's great.
Yeah. Well, actually, fun fact, if you didn't know, Donnie introduced Dylan because I believe that's his nephew. His name.
Oh, really? He's a great character. Great.
And he's still long lasting. So not going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, I know that I'm buying the Ewing and Rom V run now. And I don't think it's anywhere near as good as the Cates run, but I'm still reading it. And I'm not up to to the Venom War yet, but I'm waiting to get up there. So
yeah,
I love the character.
So far behind.
Yeah. But for example, I love Batman. And I love, we've talked about the Tom King run, the Snyder run. I love James Tynion run. Tynion, the Force run was fantastic.
Yeah. And I started from, what was it, issue 87 on?
As soon as that issue came, as soon as that omnibus came out, I mean, come on, this is great. This has got the Their Dark Designs story in it,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that James Tynan's Their Dark Designs is one of the best Batman stories of all time. I think it's so good. It's just there's so much stuff involved with it. I just love it. I love how it's Catwoman is the one that, you know, and by the way, for those that don't know, that's the one where I don't want to give spoilers. So I don't want you guys, I'd love if you guys decided to read it because of this podcast, but the OG Batman villains all come together, and I'm talking Joker, Penguin, Riddler, Catwoman. They all come together, and there's this guy called the Designer, who convinces them, if you get me involved, I'll be able to stop Batman. And there's a twist and turns, but it's one of the greatest Batman stories ever written. That was James Tynion who did that, and he's one of my favorite authors because I love his Batman stuff. I love his Justice League stuff, but man, Something is Killing the Children. Oh my God.
It off the shelf. I'm and it's still coming out, which is even amazing. And it's got multiple spinoffs.
Yeah. So. J-Dub, let me ask you, do you agree with me? I did a video on this not that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't you have loved to see James Tynion do a run on Daredevil?
Oh yeah. I think if he took over Daredevil, it would have flown off the shelf. I think it probably would have been maybe the best comic, hands down.
I read Bendis.
Like, no shots to Zdarsky. But
you know, it had Bendis, Brubaker, Zdarsky, all those great runs. But I'm thinking Daredevil with James Tynion,
just that dark, gritty,
would have been fantastic.
Nonstop brutality.
It's a shame you never got a chance to do it. So
yeah,
but that was a good video. I did great writers who never got a shot on certain books, and I got a lot of response from this. I did you know, what if Tynion did Daredevil? How come Jeff Johns was never given a Batman run?
Yeah,
he never had a Batman run. He did like 3 Jokers, and he did some Batman specialty stuff. He did
like
some
Batman adjacent.
Yeah, but like, and he never had a Superman run. I mean, he did some Superman books, but they never gave him the whole book to do.
No.
Which, by the way, Joshua Williamson is doing a fantastic run on Superman, by the way.
Yes. No, hands down to him on that one. There's so many creators where I sit there and think, like, what could, like we were talking about Donny Cates earlier, you look at him and you're like, if he jumped to DC and started Green Lantern.
Yeah. Oh my God.
You know,
Green Lantern's in pretty good hands with Adams. I think Adams' stuff is really good right now on Green Lantern.
Yeah,
but I would love to see Donny Cates do it. Or, you know, how about Donny Cates? Give him a character that just hasn't been done right in a while. How about giving Donny, just because, like, he took Venom, which was a successful character, but not great stories. And look what he did with it. I mean, give him like a character like Hawkman.
Yeah.
Or give him
Vendetti did really good with him when he had him.
Yeah,
but I think if he had Hawkman, I
just give him
the sky's the limit.
Has never been super popular. Let him write that. I think I'd love to see Cates get a DC character.
Oh, 100%.
I don't know which one would be better. I mean, he'd be great with writing Batman, but I'd love to see him write. You know, let him make someone popular. Give him. You know what? I'll tell you what. This would be great. Give him Red Hood.
Yeah. No. If you can't tell from it, Red Hood.
Yeah.
Just that angst and anger built up. Like,
oh yeah, that would be great. Let him write Jason Todd stuff. That would be fantastic. I think I'd love to see that. But that's what I did a video on, was what writers would you love to see get a shot that never got a shot on certain books? And I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they determine that stuff, but I mean, you know, like Jeff Johns wrote Green Lantern because no one else could do that. What he did was fantastic. And I love what Williamson's doing on Superman, and I love what Tynion did on Batman. But there are some decisions where I don't understand. And it would be so easy for the comic book companies to decide, let's see what so-and-so would do on something. They don't take those chances like that.
No, I know there's a lot more like a peel behind the curtain kind of thing when it comes to those decisions. Because we do talk to a lot of comic creators, and we had an interview scheduled for tonight with Christopher Priest.
Oh yeah, I love Christopher Priest.
Yeah, and you talk to some of these guys, and they're like, when you ask us, because we had to stop asking this question at one point. Like we would ask, like, hey, if you had no guards on you, if you had no your hands weren't chained to a certain character, if you had to pick one, who would it be? And a lot of them sit there and literally say, that's something we have to train ourselves not to get in the mindset of, because it's just not feasible.
Yeah.
They'll come and say, this is the characters we have for you, or this is the character we have for you. Take it or leave it.
But I think I can understand why the comic companies do that, though. I'll give you a prime example from an author that I love. I love Chip Zdarsky. I loved his Daredevil run. But in all seriousness, I thought his Batman run was crap. I know
there was a couple high points, but a lot of it just fell flat.
There were some high points near the end, but I got to tell you, and you could tell, DC Comics was not happy with him chopping off that hand.
No.
They were not happy. I don't know how the hell they let him do it, but chopping off the hand was not a popular decision. Using Zur-En-Arrh was not a popular decision. I mean, to take the weakest part of the Grant Morrison run and to redo it, I question Zdarsky's thinking there. I really didn't. I didn't like Failsafe. I mean, I thought it was cool when he fell from the moon to Earth. I thought that was cool. But I really wasn't a fan of Failsafe, and I hated the Batman of Gotham, and it finally got good at the Joker. I liked the Joker year one. And then I thought Dark Prisons and I thought Dying City was fantastic. But man, it got better as it went on. But
then it was like, oh, new creative team.
Yeah, the overall Zdarsky run was horrible. But look what he had to do. He had to end up making a clone of Batman. They had to take that guy's hand off and put it on.
There was just so much going into that. Just the hand alone, it was.
So you could tell that DC Comics was not happy about the hand.
No, they weren't. No, not one.
Because they obviously have a rule, like you can do the character, but you can't make any changes that's going to affect the next writer.
Yeah.
They want to make sure that it's the same character. You can't just chop off an appendage
and hope for the best.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be something that's going to stick with. I think they're going to stick with, they'll retcon that eventually to where it didn't happen or something, I think. But
yeah. Well, real fast too, I want to get into one part of the content creating world that I don't think a lot of people really look at, but when it comes to your videos you put out, or even like the thought of a new segment, let's just say, are you like your own worst critic when it comes to them? Like, do you battle with it a lot?
Yeah, I'm definitely, there are so many things that I say, how about I try this? And I do a test of it and erase it. Just, no, I'm not. And then it becomes an afterthought.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that stuff. Unfortunately.
I know, like, doing this outlet for this show, I battled myself so long to where I finally went, I have to do it, because if I'm battling this long to even, think yes or no, it's got to be a yes.
But it's weird though, because you start to think, like, the number one, I don't want to offend anybody. But, and this is something that I've always chosen not to do it, but listen, I'm from Illinois. So I'm a pretty liberal guy, and of course we don't get into politics, but I am not a Trump fan. And I was like, man, I would love to see a video. What would be the top 5 comic book heroes that would hate President Trump? And but I have decided against doing that 5 times.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I've taken time out and come up with a list, and these are the reasons why. But then I'm like, you know what? It's so controversial. And
It's something to put in the back pocket for a later
Yeah,
date.
but Trump's like a sports team. People either love him or hate him.
Yeah.
Like I'm a Bears fan. I hate the Green Bay Packers. I vehemently hate them. They've never done anything to me. They're a fine franchise. They're in a nice city. They're a great story. I hate them.
Yeah.
And I think people are the same way with our politics right now. They'll be like, I love President Trump, or I hate President Trump. And it's a great topic for a comic book thing, but yet it's like, nah, I'm not going to do it because I don't, God forbid somebody unfollows me because they don't agree with me politically.
Right.
And
those are things you got to look out for.
Yeah, I'd rather
even
not
hot takes in comics. Like there's people that'll sit there and like, we always argue first appearance cameo stuff all the time. And there's people that have literally unfollowed us because we had points, we proved points, and they didn't accept the point, and it's like, cool. If you don't want to follow us for that reason, by all means, there's thousands of other channels you can go check out that you will love.
Yeah.
We just made a point of this is the comic book realm of things. And here's really what Gambit first appeared in. And here's what the hierarchy
is. Here's the proof.
Yeah.
Here's the proof. And they still don't believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're just like, nah, didn't happen. I'm like, he got a full page spread with his new costume and they say his name and his origin in it. I think that's the first appearance, not a cameo. Like
I did a video where I threw a Chip Zdarsky Batman book in the garbage, and oh my God. And after I did it, I realized, okay, I'm never going to do that again, because so many people, they were so angry at me. And I'm like, okay, I don't want anybody getting that angry.
Right. You try to keep it wholesome.
And then I had to do a video where I proved that I really didn't throw the book in the garbage. Here is the book. I was not, it really didn't end up in the garbage, because people were like, you could have just given that to me. Don't throw it in the garbage. I'm like, do you really think I left it in the garbage? No, it's here. It's right here. I did not throw it in the garbage. The book is right here. It still exists. It's still on my shelf.
It's alive, everyone.
Kind of weird stuff you get.
There.
That's the weird. That's the weird interaction you get after some of these videos. So I decided, I would, try not to do that anymore. Like I did the Mount Rushmore of Gotham City.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a big question of, should the Joker be on it? And I'm like, well, the Joker, who would put a villain on the Mount Rushmore? And I said, maybe you get a Mount Rushmore of villains, but there's little things, and anything can cause controversy. It's so great.
Yeah. One slight word or one tip off, it'll just change the whole course of your whole video. Like,
look, I'll tell you, this would be a great video. And I've thought about doing it, but the Mount Rushmore of DC Comics.
Mm-hmm.
Would you put Wonder Woman on it? This is an honest question. Would you put Wonder Woman on it?
The Perez run.
Would you say the Mount Rushmore, of course, it's going to have Batman and Superman on it.
Yeah.
But would you put Wonder Woman on it?
I would.
And if you don't, is it sexist?
Exactly.
So, I mean, that's what made me think I shouldn't do that, because I don't want anybody to think, because I'm far from sexist. I have a daughter. I adore my wife. I'm the least sexist person. But when it comes to comic books, I think, and my point is, the fame of Batman, Superman, Flash, Green Lantern, is what, for me, obviously Wonder Woman's on it, but if you leave her off your list, is that sexist?
Right.
When I don't think that it would be. I just think that somebody would say, well, I don't have as much Wonder Woman content as I have Flash and Green Lantern content. So that's why I left her off. But it's those little things like that you got to think about when you're doing content. You go, man,
and you can even, sit there and say yourself, like you were just saying, I don't have that much content of it. Maybe I'm not, fully in depth into the character, where somebody else might be like, how is it not number one? And you're putting everybody else on, but you can literally sit there and say, I am not, like, me personally, I'm not the best versed when it comes to Spider-Man. I collect Spider-Man. I'm not, that isn't my cream of the crop when I think Marvel for me, and people have said, like, I just got into X-Men, you know, I literally just started X-Men because my whole team's raving about it. My biggest hot
You've
take is
never
I
read
hate.
any X-Men before.
Now I just started collecting from this point because I read Dark Phoenix Saga and I went, what was the hype about?
Yeah.
And I'm like, it didn't do anything for me. And people are like, are you serious? Like, are you even a comic fan? I was like, 11,000 issues. I think I pretty much am. But, you know, I just never fell into it.
Listen, I'm with you. I'm just now starting to read. I'm starting to get X-Men Omnibus. And I just got Age of Apocalypse, and I just got Onslaught, Road to Onslaught. I'm getting Onslaught Aftermath, Avengers versus X-Men. So I'm compiling my X-Men omnibuses so I could start reading them.
Yeah.
And so many of them are out of print, you know, it's taken forever to get it. And I just bought Inferno and I'm waiting for it. But you know what I mean? X-Men is, I can't wait till I get them all so I can read it. But I'm kind of like you. I don't have a ton of X-Men knowledge. Now, the stuff I've read, I loved, and I was around buying singles when Claremont and Jim Lee did the adjectiveless X-Men in the early 90s. You know, so I've got those omnibuses too that I'm going to reread. But I'm starting to get into it and I love it, but I don't know a ton about it.
Right. And that's the thing is people can sit there and try to not shame, but try to make themselves look better.
Give you grief.
Yeah. And be like, you know, why isn't Cyclops your best character? It's like, like for me personally,
I love Cyclops. My favorite
I hate Cyclops.
My favorite run of X-Men, and people, they get angry when I say it, Brian Michael Bendis's all new X-Men was fantastic. I loved it. I loved every second of it. People think I'm crazy, but I loved innocent young Cyclops. I loved young Jean Grey, young Beast, young Iceman, and I love Angel. I love those characters coming to the new time. I just thought that was incredible. That's coming out in omnibus, I think, in July or August or something. I've got the hard covers of it, and I love those, but I can't wait till the omnibus comes because I love Bendis's run on X-Men. I thought it was fantastic. So, and I know there are people that disagree with me vehemently, and that's fine. That's their, you know.
At the end of the day, though, you got to look at it as you have your opinion on what you like, and I have my opinion on what I like. If you don't like my opinion, then we don't need to talk about it. But at the same time, you know, I'm not going to change what I like because you told me I'm wrong.
And the same, and you don't have to change yours. You can hate Brian Michael Bendis all you want. I happen to love him. I think Ultimate Spider-Man and all new X-Men and the new Avengers, I think those are fantastic. And his Guardians of the Galaxy, I think those are fantastic runs, and I will read them over and over until I die. I think they're great. And I even liked I hated his Legion of Superheroes run, but I even liked his Superman run. So I love Bendis. I think he's great. But I know there are some people that hated that X-Men run of his, and I loved it. So
yeah, and that's something you hold on to. It's like you don't let that go, because if anyone says anything, then they're just that. To me, that's ignorant. You know, that's
I'm looking forward to the omnibus, the all new X-Men omnibus coming out. I cannot wait. I love that run. In fact, I wish he could have kept those characters. I know they had to send them back or whatever, but I wish there was a way he could have kept those characters because I thought they were great. It was just the juxtaposition between young Cyclops that was brought into current time with the old, hardened, almost villainous Cyclops. I thought that was really, really well done. So I just loved that whole thing. So,
well, speaking of like comics you love, especially out of everything that you have either behind you or wherever else, if there was someone to ask you, hey, what 3, you know, trades, omnibuses would you pick or recommend for me to start out with?
You know,
which ones would you go to?
The video that's up right now on YouTube. The
Mhm.
video that's up right now on YouTube is called um omnibus choices for new readers or something like that.
Right.
But the whole thing is, if you've never bought an omnibus before, you've never read an omnibus, here's 4 omnibuses that you could read that will make you fall in love with them. And they are Green Lantern, Volume 1 by Jeff Johns,
That would be on my list.
Brian Michael Bendis's New Avengers, because it starts with Avengers Disassembled, so
Yes.
you don't need to read anything. Ed Brubaker's Captain America.
Oh, yes.
And with that whole Winter Soldier, oh my God.
Mhm.
It starts with the whole, there's some kind of Russian assassin, and they figure it out, and it ends with Civil War and ends with Steve Rogers being killed. But that's a great omnibus. And then it was Infinite Crisis, because Infinite Crisis is the
Very good pick.
perfectly mapped. It's the perfectly mapped omnibus. I just love it so much. Those are the 4 that I went with. That's the video that's out right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, go check out
those
that
are the
video.
4 that I said. When somebody asks me, those are the 4 I tell them.
Yeah, definitely, people, go check out that video if you want any more insight on that. Now, with those top ones you have, is there one collected edition that you feel is underrated or just like criminally overlooked? Like you just feel like more people need to see this one.
I love the Donny Cates. I love the Cates Stegman Venom omnibus is fantastic. And that's their entire Venom run.
Yeah.
That's really good. I love all 5 of those omnibuses for Brubaker's run on Captain America. I love Brian Michael Bendis's Daredevil run. I love Tynan. I love Snyder and Tynan's Batman runs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really looking forward to Tom King's runs coming out in, I think, August or October or September, somewhere in there. But the Tom King omnibus is coming out. I'm ready for that, for Batman. I think that'll be great.
That'd be a good one.
And, Flashpoint is great. And Joshua Williamson's Flash Volume 1 was, man, it was exquisite. And Volume 2 is coming out in this fall. So getting that will be really great. So those, I really recommend those. I think that the Williamson Flash run is so underrated. It's so underrated.
Yeah, because that one was the Minute War 2 was in there, I believe. And that
started with that's the whole Godspeed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that beginning,
everybody got powers.
Yeah, everyone had a new. That was the introduction to the Still Force.
Yeah, and then eventually, that's got. I'm looking at the paperbacks. That's got the button.
Oh yeah,
where's the Batman and Flash team? Oh my God, that is so awesome. And then part 2 is gonna have. A Death in the Speed Force and the Flash Age and Finish Line. Finish Line was a great story.
Yes.
And it's also going to have what was that other Heroes in Crisis? The Price. It was like the sequel to the Button was The Price, and that's going to be in there. So I think the part 1 and part 2 of the Joshua Williamson Flash omnibus is sadly really underrated, but I'm hoping that the second volume will get a bunch of love, and it'll make people go out and buy the first volume, because I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But I love Joshua Williamson. In fact, did you read any of his Green Arrow stuff?
Yes.
I know Chris Condon's doing a great job on Green Arrow now, but man, if you go to the Joshua Williamson,
he made Green Arrow just what we thought.
He loved Green Arrow. You go to there's you've got it's just Reunion, and it kind of ties in with Absolute Power, but
yeah,
Reunion, Family First, and then this last one is so good. Against the Wall. This is a great book by Williamson because you can tell he loves that character.
Oh yeah, they're
And
hands down. Like that guy, the way he made him look, where he's like, "I will make my family hate me in order to
yeah,
save them."
yeah.
It
And
just mind blowing at
in
that point.
the end of the paperback Against the Wall, it's a giant love letter to Green Arrow.
Mm-hmm.
And you could tell Williamson's writing it about just how much he loves this character. And I understand why he had to stop writing it, because they wanted him to move to Superman. So I understand that, but you can tell he loves Green Arrow. And when you read the end of that paperback, it's emotional, because you can just, this sort of an ode to Green Arrow story about how much he loves him. And it was an incredibly emotional book. So I really, really enjoyed his run on Green Arrow. I think Condon's doing a great job now, but I thought what Williamson did was special. It was
It was phenomenal. Like it doesn't get any better with Green Arrow than I think that whole run he had on it was.
Yeah, but I like Percy's Rebirth run too. But there's a lot of Green Arrow stuff. I do like Green Arrow a lot. So yeah.
Well, I only got a couple questions left for you.
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
Let's jump into the community a little bit and kind of some collabs, if you will. What's been your most rewarding interaction so far you've had with creators?
I love OG Omnibus God, Dawes Comics on YouTube. I just love him. I think he's the nicest, just the nicest young guy. And see, that's the other thing with me is, I shouldn't say my age, but I mean, what would you guess my age is? Maybe you know.
I've learned in life not to do that with
anybody. I'm in my 50s. And a lot of TikTok guys are in their 20s.
Yeah, well, I'm in that middle range because most people tell me I look so young. I'm 34 right now.
All right, yeah.
So,
but I don't. So, and I don't have a ton of friends in their 20s and 30s.
Right.
But in TikTok, I've made friends in their 20s and 30s that I don't have a lot of in common with, except the most important thing, which is my comic collection. And so I love Omnibus God. I think that's a special guy. He's, I think he's the same as me politically. He's a Midwesterner. We're both like, I'm Latino. I think, he's got dark skin like me. So I just think that we have a lot of stuff in common. I love the guy, and he loves omnibuses, and I'm jealous of his white shelves. I have black shelves, but I think he's great. I love Sidious. I love Darth Sidious. I can't remember his real name, but yeah, I love this. His content is so good when he does top 5 whatever. I can't get enough of that stuff. Great. And then Comic Source Rex, I love his stuff. I love what was the other one? B Solo, was that?
Yeah, B Solo books.
Yeah, I like his
Brandon,
stuff.
great guy.
Yeah, there's a bunch of guys that I really like, and guys that I'll email or message with or talk to that are phenomenal. And Comic Unk is new one that I've really, because he's like me, he gets a lot of collected edition stuff, because a lot of guys on TikTok are just doing their singles, like new comic book day and here's what I just got, and and that's cool, but I don't have a lot in common with them because I don't get singles.
Right.
So,
I mean, it's still the story that's in it, and then once it's reprinted into omnibus form and everything, you still have a talking point.
Yeah, here's the only difference. The young guys can get up and get comics, individual comic after comic. Us fat old guys, we just want to sit down and read. We'd rather sit down and read. I want to read 6 comics at a time. That's why I get trade paperbacks. Or I'd like to read 30 comics at a time. That's why I get omnibuses. So, it's the only difference. And I think paperbacks and omnibuses look great on a shelf. You can't put single comics on a shelf.
You could. You wouldn't be
able to see what they were.
Oh, well, one of my team members, Uncle Gary, he's been collecting since the 70s. Guy, and I talk about him.
So he's probably got like 15,000 comics or 20,000, 60. Oh God, good for him.
Yeah, and it's going north of there. But I mean, the man's got everything from Amazing Fantasy 15 to current, X-Men 1 to current, like that kind of way. And he has them on a shelf, the single issues, but in his head, he knows exactly where everything's at. You know,
that's amazing. Like, I can't even get Calyx shelves from IKEA, which everybody recommends, because they're too deep.
Right.
And I don't want to double stack my books. I like seeing what the books are. I don't want to have any books hidden. Right. I like seeing them when I want to grab something. I say, oh, here's Thor. You know what I mean? And I can pull it out and grab it and read it. You know what I mean? I like being able to see everything. Whereas I know some people don't mind hiding it. I have that object permanent. I can't remember the name of it, but object permanence where I need to see it. So
right.
That's why shelves are good for me. But it's also why omnibuses and trade paperbacks are the best. You mentioned DC Finest. I love DC Finest because they've got they're another thing where you can see on the side of it, it's really thick writing. You can see what it is, and it's just like here's the DC Finest. You know what I mean? There's the side of it. It looks great on a shelf. So, you know.
No, it does. I started putting it in my little cubicle for all my, trades and collected editions as well.
By the way, Cassandra Cain was #1 on the near mint condition DC Omnibus vote.
Yeah, on that one, there's been so many people that have.
We will be seeing a Cassandra Cain Omnibus, I think, next year.
I hope
within the next 2 years. That's my prediction.
Now, in the community too, is there, and this can go as far as like not just content creators, but people in the industry, writers, artists, inkers, whatever it may be. Is there someone you would hope to collab with one day?
Who I've had discussions with, and James Tynan.
Yeah.
I've never interviewed him or anything like that, but we have communicated him because I reached out to him because I'm like, how do you pronounce your name? I said, I know this is a pain in the ass thing and I don't want to bother you. And I know you get bothered a lot, but is it Tinian or Tynian or how do you pronounce it? And he goes, it's James Tynan. He goes, it's Irish. He goes, so it's just Tynan. And I said, okay. But that was my communication with him, but he was so kind and so generous. And I already at this point, I loved his writing. I'm just so, he's so, that guy's magnificent. I just love his stuff.
I met him that was probably the year before COVID. I met him when Something is Killing Children first came out. And he just started his Batman run. Because I have Batman issue 87 signed by him and Tony S. Daniel.
Oh, that's great.
And dude, he took the time to shake everybody's hand and just talk to him for a couple minutes. Like most guys want to just get, okay, cool, here you go, next person. Like, but he takes the time out to actually talk to you.
I had a really brief interaction with him, but I liked him. I genuinely liked him a lot. He just came across as my thing was what a great guy. And it was a social media interaction, but he just seemed like a super nice guy. He was I knew him like, you know what, if I called and asked him for an interview, I think he'd do it. Oh yeah. But I don't want to push that, but I really liked him a lot. So it's nice when you meet someone that you idolize. And I mentioned one earlier, Sting. When I met Sting, I was worried, oh my God, he might think I'm an ass, but he was so nice that he did not let expectations down. Like he was David Lee Roth, same way. I had heard bad things about David Lee Roth. He was very nice and genuine and everything. So, you get those people that don't let you down. James Tynan was like that. So, but I think that's, and I don't know, you said you interview these guys, but do you ever have that worry? Like you go, oh, what if they're an asshole? What if, because I like the way this guy writes or the way this guy draws.
You don't want that perception going into it because then to me, it'll ruin the interview.
Yeah.
We've had people where we've asked questions and they were just like, nah, good, next. And you got to kind of sit there and swallow it and move on to the next thing.
Yeah. See, I've had to do that in my career.
We had
interviewing famous people. I've had to do that, like especially actors and stuff. But when, but like I said, I'm very passionate about my comic books. And there are guys. If I met Joshua Williamson and I interviewed him, or Jeff Johns, and he was a jerk, I don't think I could not react very well. Like, I've met some actors who are jerks, and I said, well, of course they're jerks. But then I've also met, like, I interviewed Chris Farley back in 95 and loved him. And he was so nice and just such a great and funny guy. And I also knew Sam, you know who Sam Kinison was?
Oh yeah. Trust me. I grew up on Sam Kinison.
I did a show in Peoria for many years, and I got to know Sam Kinison. And I got to know Sam so well. He was living in Vegas. And when I married my wife, we flew out to Vegas. And Sammy was like, he goes, well, come stay at my house. I mean, he was that genuine a person. He's like, no. He goes, I got a house here. You just come stay here. You don't just need to stay at a hotel. He was that nice, that fantastic a human being. In fact, he goes, listen, when you're out here, he goes, you just stay at my house. He goes, I'll come back to Peoria and I'll replace you while you're getting married. That's how nice he was. And I ended up getting married. April 28th of 1992. Sam Kinison died a month earlier.
Yeah.
And we had it all worked out. I was going to stay at his house. He was coming to Peoria to do the show with my partner. And he was so nice. And he was doing it for free because he was from Peoria. But and his brother Bill they had a whole thing planned, and then Sammy went and died. But I'm just saying that meeting him was great. I would hate to meet a comic author that I adore. You know what I mean? I like Jeff Johns. I love Joshua Williamson, Jonathan Hickman, Brian Michael Bendis, Donnie Cates. You know, I could just name hundreds of guys.
Right.
But it would crush me if I met them and they came across in a way to where I didn't like them. I don't think I could. I don't know if I could handle that. So
see them in the same light that you once did.
Yeah, like I was in rock music for a long time, so I would meet rock stars that I didn't like, and I would be fine getting over it. It'd be like there's no big deal. But I don't think I can do the same with comic book writers or artists either. I've never met an artist either, but if they were an ass, I don't think I could deal with it well. So I hold off on doing, even though I've done interviews for a living for 30 years, I have held off doing comic book interviews because I am afraid of how I'd react if they're somebody I don't like.
Yeah,
and I know it's weird, but
it does get hard. I'm not going to say names, but we did have one where usually we ask, hey, if there's anything you don't want to talk about, let us know. This guy was so well known for his work in the past, literally told us, I don't want you to talk about any of that. And it's like, you kind of gnaw at the bit when you're in the middle of the interview and you're like, but I want to ask you what happened here. Like, how did that? And they're just
and then you have to go through, boy, how do I ask around? It's such I've done those interviews before.
And there was a slip up where one of the things he didn't want to talk about came up. He's like, no.
Yeah.
It's like, man, like you really.
I completely understand because of my other job, I understand it. But like I said, I distinguish between something I have to do and something that I love. I love these comic books, and I enjoyed doing my other job and I enjoyed interviews, but you notice I haven't said anybody's name, anybody who is a jerk. I haven't named any names, and trust me, I could. Good Lord. I could tell you stories that would, but I'm not bringing it up.
Yeah. Which, I mean, like I said, it falls into the realm of the passion, regardless of how they are. Like, it sure does it suck when the person that maybe hit that emotion for you just kind of turned out to be someone that they weren't.
You think so highly of them, You don't want you want them to come across how you feel. You don't want them to come across, but then again, that's themselves.
Yeah.
And when
you
you're
you
interviewing
got to be
someone,
respectful of that person as
when you're
who they
interviewing
are.
someone, you want them to be authentic.
Mhm.
I'll tell you, you know, like I'll name two people you probably don't even know, but I'll tell you two people that I've interviewed who I loved. They were guys who were famous on a soap opera. I don't watch a lot of soap operas, but these guys did my radio show in the 90s, and they were such nice, funny, genuinely authentic and entertaining guys. They ended up becoming friends and coming over to my house for dinner, and they were just great guys. And they were these guys on a show called Days of Our Lives.
Mhm.
And they played the characters of Bo and Patch. The one guy's Patch because he had an eye patch. His name was Stephen Nichols. He's one of the most authentic and genuine people I've remembered. This is in the 90s, but I've remembered to this day how nice of a guy that was. And then Peter Reckel was the name of the guy who played Bo Brady, and he was just such a nice and genuine person and a caring person. And getting to know those guys, and they're not super famous, and they never acted like they were super famous. They were just genuinely nice guys and becoming friends of mine. And even when I talk to them, it's not about what they do for a living. It was just, what are you doing? I'm nothing, man. What, what's up? And when you get to know, and the same, Eddie Money was a rock star. Like Eddie Money was like that. He was someone who would just call and check in with you.
Yeah.
Which, when you meet someone famous, and I'm using the soap opera stars because I'm not distinguishing a difference between the level of fame.
Right.
But I mentioned Chris Farley. Chris Farley was so genuine and authentic and would just pick up the phone and call. Chris Rock was like that also. He was just such a nice guy. I interviewed Chris Rock, and then I had to go to a radio convention in Atlanta, and Rock was in Atlanta. And so my partner and I said, oh, hell, Chris Rock's here. So we go to see him, and he sees us, and he remembers from the interview. And he's like, oh, come on. And we end up going to dinner with him. So you get celebrities that are like that are just great people. And that's what I would wish for comic writers or comic artists, to be that genuine and nice, and not, but I know that they're going to be like, that they're going to, what if they're like so-and-so who I interviewed, and it just felt like, when you do those interviews, you get 7 minutes. Okay. You get 7 minutes, but it feels like it took 3 hours because it's such an unfun interview, and they're not authentic, and,
they're just trying to get through the day.
Yes. And you get that. So I would hate if any of my comic guests were to do that. So that's sort of the reason that I'm holding off on it, because I don't know how I'd react to that. And I don't want my comics diminished. I don't want to find out Donnie Cates is an a-hole, because I love reading and rereading his books. And I would hate to read it and think, boy, he was such an a-hole when I interviewed him. I would hate to have that. That's how special these books are to me.
Yeah, it is to a lot of people, trust me. Like, I've sat there and you got to separate to the artist from the work.
Could you go back and read, if it was an author, I don't know if it's an author or artist, but could you go back and read their art or their works after you interviewed, after they were a jerk?
I actually did that day. Because it was on my list. But you got to realize too, when you look at these guys, they haven't been in the industry forever. Let's just say they want to talk about what they're doing now, because they probably had thousands of the same questions in the past. And I try to mix it up. Everyone on the team, when they do interviews too, they try to mix it up where it's like new question, old, let's move back, to what you're doing now. And a lot of them are just like, can we just talk about what I'm doing lately?
If I interviewed Tynan now, I don't think I would go back and talk about his Batman run, even though I loved it. I would mention the omnibus and how everybody should buy it, but I certainly wouldn't ask him a bunch of Batman questions. I would ask questions about Something Is Killing the Children and books he's doing now.
Exquisite Corpses.
Yeah, Exquisite Corpses. People love that book. There hasn't been a paperback yet, but
It's only 2 issues in, so
I can't wait till there's a paperback. Then I can't wait to get it. It's going to be fantastic.
all right. Well, last question for you.
Sure.
And if you want to think on this one, you can.
And please
No
forgive
big
me. I
deal.
didn't mean to go so long, but
No, hey, trust me, I'm loving this.
Okay.
It's been well worth it. Trust me.
Thank you so much.
I love this interaction. Definitely want to have you on again at some point. But if you were talking to somebody that wanted to start doing content,
Yeah.
and maybe they're just afraid to start, what piece of advice or quote motto would you tell them to get them to jump onto this content train?
I would say do the content that you want to see. Don't worry about all the other superfluous BS. Just do what you want to see, because then your fans will become people that are just like you. And the easiest relationship to create is one where it's someone that's in your same mindset. Like I talked about Omnibus God. I just started watching the kids' TikTok videos, and it was similar to my taste, and I just loved him. And now it's like, when I go to Organic Price Books, I use his code to buy the books. So you know what I mean? That's just a relationship that started up. He's such a nice guy, and and so I say just do content that you would want to see. And this is my advice. This is my advice as a radio guy too. Like I've done radio for so long. If I'm giving you advice from that perspective, I'm just saying do content that you are interested in, because then at the very least you will get people like you that will watch it, and then grow from there.
Yeah.
And
that's one of the best pieces of advice too you can actually give somebody is, other than just start, make the stuff you love.
When it comes to stage fright and any of that, and I don't care if it beat me, but that's all bullshit. It really is. I have been singing in a band and playing guitar and hosting rock shows for over 30 years. And butterflies, you hear about butterflies in the stomach or stage fright. I'm telling you, it's BS. It's in your own head. Get out of your head. Get out of your head and think, what do I want to see? And that's the content you make. Don't worry about that other stuff. Because when you're doing content, it's just you and your camera or your phone or whatever you're using. Or maybe you got your girlfriend or boyfriend or parent or brother, sister, whatever, holding up your video. That's the only person you're doing content for. And don't think about anybody else. Don't think about it. Just think about your content and remember, what do I want to see? And you will make great content. Trust me.
Yes, 100%. Well,
and then do it.
Yeah.
Do it. Don't let your body get in that trap of, oh, I don't feel like making videos today. No, that's BS. Get up and make a video. Even if it's a video that only 20 people watch, get up and do it. Because that's,
those 20 people matter too.
Yeah, that's right. And those 20 people, if those 20 people watch 10 videos, that's 200. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah. Well, Ray, thank you so much for taking the time out today, man. I do appreciate you. I appreciate the collection and everything that you've done so far. Ladies and gentlemen,
you're a fellow Illinois boy. I respect that.
Yeah. Went to Wisconsin for a little bit there, then came back. So
there's nothing wrong with Wisconsin.
Oh, no, not at all. But find Ray over on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, basically everywhere at ChubbyRayComics.
TikTok's my favorite. Go to TikTok, see my stuff there.
Yeah.
And follow me on YouTube because, like I said, ChubbyRayComics is a new channel.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to pick up followers on it.
So yes, ladies and gentlemen, go check him out. Great content. He posts regularly. It's always fantastic to watch what you do, Ray. So
thanks, J-Dub.
Thank you again for being on today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching, and I will see you next one. Hey coders, if you like that, give us a subscribe. And if you want more content like that, definitely check out the videos above. Hope you enjoy it. There's a lot for everyone.